My father-in-law passed away suddenly. It's because you didn't take good care of him. My husband is gone because of you. I'm sorry. Apologizing won't bring him back. You're going to pay for this. Large drops of tears are falling out of my mother-in-law's eyes. It's such a deliberate and exaggerated act on her part. If you're really sorry, at least get down on your knees and beg for forgiveness. Yes, I'm very sorry. I kneel in the middle of the funeral home, while many people look on and whisper to each other. Then, her cell phone starts ringing. It's me, Mom. My husband's familiar voice came out of the speaker. I just finished burning all the evidence. I still need to erase all the emails, and then I'm going home. I'm glad the old man is gone so easily. I can't believe it went so well. The old man and Lucy are idiots. Hush, Daryl! My mother-in-law scurries to cover the speaker of her phone, but it's too late. I stand up and take a step toward her. They dug their own graves in front of such a large crowd. How stupid are they? Her fake tears have already dried up, and she's flustering. It's not what you think. I don't know who it was. It must be a wrong number. Oh, darn it. Her ugly true color is revealed now. I think to myself, smiling at her in panic. Now, my father-in-law and I would begin our retaliation, putting everything on the line. The story goes back some time ago. I was a housewife who was turning 40 that year. To make a little extra for the family, I worked part-time at a local supermarket in my spare time. I married my husband Daryl 10 years prior to the incident, and we had no kids. My in-laws lived a 15 minutes walk from our house. We planned to live together sometime in the future, as they were getting quite old. Daryl and my mother-in-law Carol were very kind to me when we first got married. As the years went by, they became more and more difficult to deal with. Daryl started complaining about my cooking, which he had enjoyed once those days. If I served him something he didn't like, he threw away the food without even taking a bite. He also looked for places that had not been cleaned well and scolded me. Carol came over every day to criticize me for everything. Then she looked in my refrigerator and took food home without asking me. I once asked Daryl to do something about her, but he told me to let her be as she was my family. Not only that, he even ordered me to cook for her. I had been frustrated and sad, but I had no one to rely on. My parents had already passed away when I was in university, and I had no close relatives. I had no particular qualifications and had only been working part-time since I got married. I had no confidence in my ability to live on my own if I got a divorce. There was no choice but to endure. They knew what I was thinking. Whenever I showed even the slightest hint of defiance, Daryl said, I have no problem getting rid of you anytime. He threatened me with a divorce. The only person who had been kind to me was my father-in-law, Morgan. He required nursing care, and I made time between my job and housework to take care of him. Carol had told me, I'm just as old as he is. It's not right to make me take care of him. It's the daughter-in-law's job, isn't it? You are part of the family, so you should at least help us. She turned her back on him and busied herself with her own things. Caring for Morgan had never been a burden for me. He enjoyed the food I cooked for him and was always humble and appreciative when I helped him with personal care. The time I spent with him was more like therapy for me, which had become an important part of my life. I enthusiastically went to him every time. Then one day, Daryl asked me to go for lunch with him. I was dubious about his invitation, which I had not received in many years, but I was thrilled. He said that Carol was watching Morgan, so I went out. It turned out to be a bad idea. I should never have gone out, no matter what Daryl said. While I was out, Morgan suddenly passed away. I was completely stunned, but there was no time to grieve. Daryl and Carol put all the blame on me.
It's because you haven't been taking good care of him.
That's right. If you had taken care of him every day, none of this would have happened.
We left him in church, but what have you been doing? How could he have died so suddenly?
How terrible! I was repeatedly scolded by them. Besides, they refused to go through the hassle of preparing for the funeral, etc., and I ended up taking care of all the formalities. On the day of the funeral, Morgan used to own a small business and volunteered in the community before, so a lot of his business connections and acquaintances gathered at the funeral home. They all expressed their regret for him, and many were in tears. I watched them as if I were dreaming. Then suddenly, Carol's phone started ringing loudly. In the quiet funeral home, it echoed uncomfortably. Carol panicked and pressed the speaker button by mistake. The ringing stopped, but now the caller's voice came out at high volume. The sound was very familiar to me. It was Daryl. He said there was a job he could not hold off and went on business trip, ignoring his father's funeral.
Hello, Mom. It's me.
Wait, Daryl,
What? I'm destroying the evidence now. It's all going well.
Hey, wait!
Lucy is not so bright. She has no idea. We will split the $200K insurance money as promised. I'm going to head back to you soon.
The family members and the attendees started demanding explanations and closing in on her. The relatives called Daryl, who was supposedly on a business trip, and asked him to come to the funeral home right away. At first, they were evasive, saying they knew nothing about it. However, the angry relatives were so fierce that they were forced to come clean about their plan. Morgan was feeling a little under the weather a few days before his death. It was only a little cold and nothing serious. The doctor even said he was going to get better as long as he ate and slept well. It was something that would heal quickly if he was well taken care of. In fact, he was getting better little by little after taking the prescribed medicines. Daryl and Carol had noticed that he was not well. Daryl lured me out so that I wouldn't have to take care of him and hoped that he would fade away. It was all for the insurance money. It was Carol who came up with the idea, and the two of them had been emailing about their plan. They planned to blame me for not taking good care of Morgan and just taking the money. Daryl used the business trip as an excuse and was actually busy burning the medications and notes I kept on Morgan's condition every day and erasing all the emails correspondences. When I finished hearing their story, I was burning with anger. Morgan was gone just because of their greed. I managed to calm myself and walked up to them. In fact, I had known the exchange between them. I looked into Daryl's phone that was left in the living room once. I honestly had no intention of doing so, but I was bothered by the non-stop beeping of incoming mail. I just wanted to pass it to him when I accidentally tapped the screen and saw the contents. To say that I was shocked was an understatement. I couldn't believe they were planning such an atrocity for money. I kept my composure and immediately consulted Morgan. After talking it over, we both agreed that there would surely come a day when they would not allow me to take care of him. We decided to hire a helper whom I knew, just in case that day came. On the days when I could not visit him, I would ask her to take over. She was supposed to visit him on the day I went out for lunch. I was told later that she did come, however. He doesn't need a helper. I would never let a stranger come into our house. She was yelled at by Carol and was turned away. She had no choice but to leave without checking on him. During the discussion with him, we came up with a few ideas. I decided to record him in case none of them worked. I grabbed the voice recorder and stood in front of Daryl and Carol. They looked away from me as if I was sore in their eyes. I had known what they were planning, but I'd been hoping it was all a joke. When I actually heard the two of them talk about it, my brain started to boil from shock and anger. They seemed to be feeling more uncomfortable rather than guilty, which infuriated me even more.
What the hell do you want?
I have a message for you from Morgan.
What message?
Ignoring the confused look on Daryl and Carol, I pressed the play button on the voice recorder. Morgan coughed a few times and then slowly begins to speak.
The fact that you are hearing this means that the plan worked out the way you wanted to. I'm sure you must be very happy with the way things turned out, but too bad for you. I've already canceled my life insurance a long time ago. You put everything on Lucy's shoulders and don't even show your faces to me. On top of that, you have been ungrateful and giving her a hard time even though she has been working so hard. I have nothing to give or leave to such horrible people.
True to his word, he had already terminated the insurance policy. No matter how many times I asked him if he was sure, he said,
"Don't worry."
He sounded somewhat forlorn and proceeded with the procedure without any hesitation. So that's that. He knew about your plan. The insurance has been canceled for a long time now. There's no such thing as insurance money.
No way! You're lying! You just made him say those things.
Yeah, it's all your lies, isn't it? Believe it or not, it's up to you. You can contact that insurance company, but even if he kept the contract, I doubt that you will receive the money after you've spoken about the plan so much. They looked at each other in surprise. By the way, I recorded what you two said earlier. After committing such a sin, I hope you are going to tell me again that I should forgive you guys. They hung their heads down in silence, as if they had given up. I called the police, and they were taken away without resistance. I was quite busy sorting out the remaining matters of Morgan, and with the police interviews after that. Daryl and Carol had avoided criminal charges. However, their atrocity had been circulated in various circles, and they were shamed everywhere they went. Daryl was told by his boss that his presence would affect the company's reputation, and was removed from the project he had been overseeing. Although it was in the form of voluntary resignation, he was eventually fired. He has been having a hard time finding a new job because of his reputation. Carol has also been distanced from her circle of friends, and the neighbors have pressured her to move out. She has been denied a renewal of her rental agreement and has been forced to relocate. I filed for a divorce immediately after the funeral. I wasn't able to come to terms with it for a long time, but after the incident and what Morgan left with me, I finally made up my mind. There was another message from him on the voice recorder. It was addressed to me, which I did not find until after the funeral.
Dearest Lucy, thank you so much for everything you have done for me. I sincerely apologize that they have forced such a big responsibility on you to take care of me. But since I haven't been able to go out, I really look forward to spending time with you. I am blessed that such a kind person like you became part of my family. I have nothing but gratitude. I am so sorry that I could not protect you from them. You can go anywhere and live any way you want. So don't give up. I want you to choose a path that will allow you to live your life with a smile on your face.
Such was the message. It made me burst into tears. He was right. I was tired of my life, and before I knew it, I had given up. I was convinced that it was the only way. Morgan was right about choosing my way. Without Daryl, and even all alone, I could continue living. I wanted to fulfill his last wish. I immediately filed for divorce and moved out of the house. I continued to work part-time at the supermarket for the time being while looking for a full-time job. I was so anxious about my life on my own, but I now feel like I have a bright future. I'm going to start my way of life from now on.